You legends, I hope you guys can see us. A little bit of light in the driveway here, but this is why you have to be prepared. The second Saturday in a row, it's raining in the morning. This is the only time we can ride. We don't get to shuffle things around. So you need to get the proper equipment you need. You can see down there, I don't know if you can see. A little bit of light here, there's water everywhere. It's been raining for like 2 days in a row in our area. It's making up for the lack of rain we got in June. So we're heading out and we'll get some clips for you all. Should be interesting.
On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton. We rolled into the Woodlands. It was rainy, driving rain, kind of cool day, not very cold. It ended up being just a cool, mild day. We went out Fish Creek into the wind. We took Capitol Hill Road, Raven Chapel. All of that part is off camera. We came back Adewey to Kenan Cutoff, Spring Branch Road off camera. By the time we got on Spring Branch Road, it cleared up. Turned out to be a fair day. Went by Dobbins there, and on Jackson Road, we turned on the camera. We filmed that stretch. We got past Karen off camera, and on 1488, we turned the camera back on again and really poured it on with the effort back into town. It was a very, very pleasant ride, and it kind of helped us really handle riding in varying weather conditions.
You legends, we're on the road. We're not quite on the open road yet. We're in the neighborhoods here.
We're on Wildy Creek Drive. It goes up to Creekside.
The reason that we get the proper equipment is 2 weekends in a row now it's raining. So the thing is to be consistent when you're training for the time you have available. You have to be able to go out for that appointment you have. Now, if you have the luxury of waiting for the rain, sometimes you may have to wait till the next day. And some people are forced to do that. But we want to be consistent. And so it's so lovely. As I've said before, when it rains, roads are clear. There are fewer cars out because not everybody wants to get out. So we're heading out. We're going to probably do 5 or 6 hours. Yeah. It's a nice, mild day. It's about probably 17 Celsius, which is in the 60s, like 61, 62 Fahrenheit. So it's not very cold, it's a cool day. So we have to adapt our outfits accordingly. So needless to say, I'm wearing a lighter long sleeve jersey underneath. I've got my full rain jacket. I could have probably gone with a vest, but I brought a jacket because it's gonna keep going down to about 59 Fahrenheit when we're done. So it's not gonna get warmer. So I didn't want to get wet and it gets a little cool. And where we're going is always cooler. So there's so much involved in getting your kit right. Even in the summer, you have to wear the lightest possible stuff. And sometimes you miss. You come out with a midway jersey, you gotta unzip earlier than you planned. So you gotta be flexible and adapt. Rain's picking up here, getting heavier as I speak. So we'll get a few clips for you all and share our ride and our adventure, our latest adventure yet.
Yeah, we got pounded by the rain early. I mean, it's coming down. I end up zipping up shortly after this clip. This is Creekside Green here. We're still in the neighboring subdivision. We're approaching Creekside Green. This East Wildy Creek Drive, a lot of times we'll take it going and coming because it's very quiet and we can kind of spin down and
this
check.
guy from
Right, you legends, I want to get this rain for you all. It has picked up tremendously.
We're still in the Woodlands here.
I had to basically unzip because it's like 17 Celsius, something like that. In the 60s, low 60s, and my body's heating up.
It says 14C, but it felt warmer.
Probably could have used a short sleeve jersey, but I don't know. It's one of those borderline days.
I'm wearing a rain cap on and it keeps complete protection for your head.
I want to show you all my tights here. As shiny as it is, no water's coming through, it's rolling off. These are basically designed by ASOS to keep the water out, as well as being breathable. I don't know how to do it. They'll probably last a few hours before water gets through.
Yeah,
So
after several hours, the legs got a little damp, but it dried right back because you're pedaling. And I don't know how they do it, but the tights almost feel a little bit like wetsuit on the outside, but they still have lining on the inside, kind of a light. They call it Osmos Heavy, but it's almost like a fleecy material, but softer, and it keeps you warm and dry.
Let's go straight, my brother.
So this is John Cooper School Road, this intersection.
Clear.
We're on
Okay.
Flintridge Drive in the Woodlands, Texas.
John Cooper School.
And when it rains, the roads are just clear. You don't have as many cars, less headaches to deal with. But you do have to put your outfit together carefully because it's not just the water you want to keep out. You want to make sure you don't boil. You want to dress properly so you're not too hot, depending on what the ambient temperature is. So that's a lot that goes into getting your kit perfected. You see the shorts I'm wearing? You see those? See the reflectors? How they're well placed?
He could have gone, man.
Yeah, this guy's sitting at the stop sign, so we just go ahead and take it. You know, he wants us to go, we go ahead and take it. That's cool. I don't want to stop anyway. This is a 4.5% climb or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's sitting there. It's dark as night. There's no lights on. The postal service worker. I don't know what he's saving the lights for. When it's cloudy like this, I put my light on the low setting. It still pulsates because I like to pulse in the light because it helps drivers get a depth perception as to where you are as you approach or ride away from them when they come to you. So I always like my light to be moving. A steady light is harder to judge how far the object is from you. And it's pouring. We got big raindrops here, but we're equipped. And you will see later in the film when the weather changed. I mean, we were dry. I ended up taking off my jacket and stowing it. That's why I like the lightweight rain jacket that are very foldable, because if the weather changes, you can peel it off while you're still on the bike, if you must, and then fold it up and put it in a pocket. And I like to balance all the objects in my pocket so they're not moving around too much. So, you know, this is when I can ride on Saturday. I have other obligations later in the day. A lot of the groups in the area, because the weather was forecasted to move out by around, I guess, noon, it actually ended up drying up several hours earlier than forecasted. So a lot of the riders went out around lunchtime, the groups, but I don't have that luxury. My appointment is in the morning. This is Kirkendall Boulevard and Flintridge Boulevard. We're still in the Woodlands.
There we go.
Some of these lights are very short. You see, it went green before we were even completely through the intersection. So we have the wind, we have the driving rain. So going north on this ride was very, very challenging. We were fighting the wind. And really all we do is just keep the effort in the same range we want to keep it in and you know, and deal with it, because the speeds are going to be lower if you stay in that zone. If you want to go faster, you have to work harder. So we don't worry about the wind. Let the wind do its thing, we do ours. I'm wearing the Veloharmony shoe cover on this ride. Keeps you completely dry pretty much. Some of our shoes, you have to like tape the bottom, because the well ventilated shoes, those same vents can allow water through depending on what your shoe cover is doing. So you got to keep that in mind. But the Velo toes just sealed everything. Falls coming through to take a pull. The Rain-X that I put on the lens is what is allowing us to have decent pictures even though we're in driving rain. And so it may appear that there's not a whole lot of rain, but there is, but it's sheeting off the lens of the camera. I put the Rain-X on there because I have a cover, one of those little plastic protective covers for the lens. And so I'm not worried about it having an impact on the actual lens itself because the Rain-X is not touching the lens. So before you do something like that with sensitive equipment, make sure that the manufacturer says it's okay to use things like Rain-X on them. And if you do, just be cautious. Don't let it drip around the edge and get in the internals. Put a little bit just on the lens itself. So I'll put it on the lens cover. You can see the drops rolling. That's what the Rain-X is doing. It is raining very hard right here. And you see the effort. My heart rate is at sweet spot right now. I basically use like a larger ratio here because it feels like I'm climbing. Because look at the rain. The rain is sheeting off the lens. And I went ahead and wiped it anyway just to make sure, but it doesn't appear that it was necessary. So I'm going to make sure the next ride we do in the rain that I add more Rain-X because it really works well. The wind blows it right off the lens. So if you do something like that, just put it on the lens. Don't put too much. Use like a cotton bud or something or earbud and just do the central part of the lens so it doesn't go around the edge. That's how I did it. I didn't splash it on there. I just did that.
I have to sneak across because I ain't getting no water to push that button.
Yeah, there's a lot of water on the right there. You see that pool of water? Usually we'll go there and push the button for the light to change, but there's nothing coming, so we just sneak across here like pedestrians do. We're going to check on the right. Paul checks it's clear, and we go across. Because there's a pool of water over there. The thing is, in our rural areas, rural subdivisions, our sewers are not fully connected everywhere. So we have a lot of water pooling. We've had light rain for several days, but not high volume in terms of the inches. So there's no reason for water to be pooling like it has.
Ready, rain, coming down. Yeah.
It's coming down. I actually ended up taking off my glasses and putting it on the back of my head because it's just so much rain. I think I'm zipping up there. Yeah, that's why I put my glasses on the back because it's full of raindrops. Can't see, so I see better with it off. And in these conditions, I don't have to worry about insects. You see where it looks like I'm wearing a boot? Those tights have a neoprene bottom that mates with my overshoes. So you get a watertight seal. So if you get the right pieces in the right spots, yeah, no worries. You hear the wind. I dubbed it down quite a bit, but it's out there. It's pounding. So So at this turn circle, I'm checking left to make sure nobody's entering it. And then even though we're in the turn circle and we have the right of way, I'm going to check to the right to make sure. That's why you see me put my hand out for the left. Paul knows it's clear, because those cars will enter the turn circle at speed and you can't really see where we went through. There's a blind spot with the trees and vegetation in the middle median there. So I always check. I'm not attached to the right of way. I have no trouble giving up the right of way on my bike or in my car, because no one benefits from a crash. There's a slight grade right here, kind of a ninja grade, barely 1%, but then that wind. The wind is coming from the west. You see my jacket filling up a little? I cracked the top of the neck just a little bit because it's a little warm this morning. It says 12 Celsius. It feels more like 15 or 16 Celsius. Feels like low 60s, but the temperature is in the 50s Fahrenheit, about 53 Fahrenheit. So the wind's coming directly from the west. So my jacket balloons out a little bit because I've got the zipper down a bit. And then it's coming from the right, which is north. And we're headed west right here. It says northwesterly there above the avatar, the cyclist avatar. So the entire morning here, we're going into the wind. I like it this way, actually. I like to start my rides going into the wind, and if it holds, when you're a little tired, you can travel faster later in the ride with the wind in a favorable position. So coming home, you will see we're able to really raise the speed because we have more of a cross tailwind. Because right now we have a cross headwind. So since we're headed northwesterly, Paul is sitting right on my right hip, which keeps that westerly flow of the wind off of him. That's where the pocket is. You see how quiet it is right there. So even though I'm on the tops, you see how my torso is at an angle. Let's say it might be 44, 45 degrees or whatever. That's the way you're supposed to be sitting on your bike when you're not completely aero. I see a lot of cyclists that sit higher than that thinking it's more comfortable. It's not. You put a lot of strain on your bike the higher you, on your back, the higher you sit. We stop here and I stop completely. Paul says, come on, let's go. Because the car on the left was sitting there before we got there and all the lights in all directions were red. So I don't know if there was a left turn on the other side that we couldn't see. So I had expected that car to move. It was kind of odd because every intersection was being held up.
Oh, yeah, it was red on every side.
That's what I'm telling Paul. It was red on every side. Like the lights are just shut down all directions. And so I wanted to make sure that guy wasn't moving before I got out there.
Yeah. Up to my
We're heading more northerly. So it says northeasterly, but it's gonna go east, but then it'll move back north. You can see the road curving to the right. That's more easterly. And then in a few kilometers, it will go back towards the west, and which will put us more northerly. This is Branch Crossing. We're in the area called Sterling Ridge. We're headed towards a park called Taramont Park. A lot of cyclists used to meet and start rides out of Taramont Park a while back. People move to start locations around here frequently. So before I met Paul, when I would ride, it would be rainy, I just take off by myself. Because there's no fun riding in a group on a day like this. All of you just get dirty. Been there, done that. When I did racing and stuff, yeah, you pay to go do the race, you're there, you do it, you get through it. But it's not fun. You get grit on your face, your mouth, it's just, yeah. No point dealing with that right here. This light is usually short, so we're coasting to time it. There we go. Green up. I think Paul is wearing I think that's a Rafa Rain cape from seasons ago. Yeah, I wanted to film the water level down there. That creek is usually very low, but with all the rain we've had, it's up a bit. I really love riding in the rain. You ride in these conditions, windy, rainy, on a fair day, please. Whatever they throw at you in a group, you're ready to deal with. Because your attitude is like, whatever, bring it on. Been there, done that. When you've handled worse, nice weather riding is a piece of cake. Or less challenging weather riding. We need the rain. We've been behind the whole year. Most of the state is in drought conditions. We need more rain. When it rains, I like to use the road more. You see where Paul is? Because there's so much more stuff that can stick to your tire. Like if you go over glass or something and it's wet, it can stick to the rubber more easily and work its way through. So if you're riding and you go through glass, do your best to either stop and spin your tires and wipe them off, because when it's wet, glass will stick. That's just something that happens. Doesn't matter. Like if you break something in the house and you want to clean up glass shreds, it's best to use a wet rag or a wet piece of paper towel or something, because the glass sticks to it. And it's easier to get all the pieces. So you don't walk around, cut yourself because you broke a glass or something. So that transfers to the road. So we avoid glass, because a lot of people drive in cars and drink behind the wheel, whether it's a soda or whatever is not germane, but they throw the bottles, they litter, and they throw the bottles out of their cars as they're driving, and those bottles shatter on the side of the road. They get run over by other cars in certain times. You get little pieces that are sometimes small, too small for you to see when you're riding your bike. Those are things we have to deal with. And here in Texas, they have signs on the highway that says, don't mess with Texas, no littering, that kind of stuff, to try to encourage people to dispose of their trash properly. This is Research Forest and Branch Crossing Boulevard. We switch here to, I think the next scene is when the weather has changed. If I remember correctly,
Legends,
yeah.
Look at this day. Weather has changed again. The storm blew over. So we're getting some clips. I had to put the rain jacket up because it's gotten nice and warm. It's almost 20 Celsius, like 69 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going south on Jackson Road.
We had just turned on Jackson Road. Look at this. The storm blew away quickly. I put my jacket in my middle pocket. I moved my essentials kit to the left, and the right pocket is for the camera when I'm filming. So that's all I had to do was basically take the jacket off because it warmed up. I'm wearing Rafa's Aero, long sleeve Aero jersey because it's a little lighter than the thermal jersey because of how mild the day was when we started. Kind of cool, wasn't cold.
Yeah.
So all of that plays. It's never easy to put the kit together in varying temperatures. You've got to continually work at it. And it just comes with experience. You got to get outside in the morning, walk around, and see, oh, how does this feel? You know, while you're sipping your cocoa or your coffee or whatever you start your day with. So now the wind held. So we've got a light wind from the back, and then we have the wind from the right, the west. So it's northwesterly flow, but mostly from the west. So it's blowing from the right. That's why Paul is sitting on my left. So we don't have a perfect tailwind. You can hear it. But we're not fighting a strong headwind like we were when we're going northwesterly. I'm trying to settle into a rhythm so we can get back, wrap up the ride. So after about, I think 3 hours or so in the rain, the tights I was wearing, they held off the water long enough to where by the time it started feeling a little damp on my thighs, they would dry off because you're pedaling, the wind's hitting them. So whatever material they are using on those tights are perfect. I got to do additional research and see because I got to get a few more copies of those for more rainy rides because they're really, really good at keeping your legs dry. You can see I'm not using a whole lot of watts. This road is somewhat downhill here. It says -2. So we're going somewhat downhill. And in the distance, it's going to kick up. So whenever you're riding and you get the opportunity to save on using watts, you save it and you wait till the road kicks up or the wind picks up, because that's where you can lose or make up a lot of time. So right here it's starting to go up now. Just a slight grade. The graphics will catch up, but it's leveling up. It's probably maybe almost 2%. It's not that much. But these are the things that will slow you down and your legs start burning. So you got to select the proper gear. You can see the watts are going up. This is where you make up time. This is where, if you're doing a time trial or whatever, this is where you want to put the effort in. Because on a flat road, you have to overcome so much wind resistance. And it takes a lot more energy to gain a little speed on the flat road than on a climb or, into a headwind. So into the headwind, you really have to work to not slow down too much. And then on a climb, you can really gain time or lose time based on your condition. So if you waste all your energy on a flat road, then you get to the climb and you slow down, you can lose a lot of time. You lose a lot more time than you would on a flat road just kind of rolling. Because on the flat road you can cheat. You know, you can soft pedal and you're still moving. But on a climb, when you slow down, you pretty much stop. Jackson Road is a Strava segment that someone set up. So whenever we come here, plus just the way it is, you just want to work. You probably have this in your area too. What we found, not just on this ride, just a lot of times, there is a big hesitation by some drivers to not pass wide or pass in the left lane. They act like there's something wrong with the opposite lane. Even on a road that has, say, 4 lanes where you got 2 in each direction, they still want to pass in the lane we're riding in. And we have to literally force them to move over by positioning ourselves in such a manner that, you know, come on, there's nothing wrong with the left lane. The right lane is for slower moving traffic. If you're going faster, you pass on the left. I wonder where they got that driving education from. Just too many of them want to pass in the same lane we're in, which makes absolutely no sense when the other lane is perfectly empty. You know, I'm sure you get that where you ride. Just idiotic. You know, you have to coexist with them, even when you drive your car. They do the same dumb things. Want to come sit on your bumper like they made a deal with you for you to break the law. Like you all decided how fast you were going to go before you left home. You know, just people using a small percentage of their brains. It's too prevalent. Anyway, back to cycling. So you see here, we get a little bit of protection. The speeds have increased because of that. My effort is the same. You know, 200, 250 watts. That's what we're staying in that same zone, like zone 2. I'm at the top of zone 2. The road goes up. I don't want to downshift, so I stand. Takes more energy. My respiration is going to change. Heart rate will go up a bit, but it'll settle once I sit down. But that got me over that hump without breaking my rhythm and losing speed. You see how my jersey is not moving at all? That makes a world of difference because there is a lot of wind. It's just when your kit fits you well. That's why I stuck that cape in the pocket and the pocket folded over it. All of that helps you slice the wind. Because most of the riding you're fighting drag. That's where the load comes from. Except when you're climbing, it's not that significant. And you're fighting gravity. The road goes up here. I don't know if I stood or not. I don't remember. But my goal on this whole section was just to maintain the tempo. Just find a rhythm and tap it out. Like Crick the Lion and those boys used to do. Tap out the rhythm. Now I've hit sweet spot. This area is very exposed. This section, see, there are no trees or anything. So the wind was more significant. I'm trying to keep the effort steady. You see, my heart rate went up. In that area where the exposure was, we were battling more wind to keep the effort. We were doing probably I don't know, 17, 18 miles an hour. It's a pretty road, just carved in between the trees. I hope they never cut these trees down. They're beautiful. The forest here is not as thick as in the Sam Houston forest, but at least they have a tree-lined road, which gives it character. And see, look how that guy passed. He didn't even have to change his speed. He just rolled around. That's what I'm talking about. They act like they're not supposed to hesitate for a second when they leave home. That part of driving and stopping and turning and all of that, that's all part of it. You don't like driving, don't drive. Come out like you're mad at the world. I hate that. Where are you rushing to go? Leave with enough time. You know. Road goes up here. I'm trying to stay as relaxed as possible. And you can see my heart rate has dropped 12 beats from the last open area we hit. And as you're riding and the effort increases, you have to decide, do I push in this gear or do I downshift at least one? And what's going to drive that is how long or how hard the grade has caused you to pedal, and whether you think you can sustain that without overstressing your legs. So on a ride like this, in these conditions, when I'm riding, all I'm looking at is my cadence, and then I periodically glance to see what speed is registering, meaning I want to see at least 30 kilometers an hour. That's about 18, because we're in zone 2, pretty much. Right here, I'm probably at the top of tempo. But the idea is that in these conditions where the wind is not pounding us too much from the front, we should at least be able to do between 16 and 20 miles an hour, all things considered. The road goes up here. I think I downshifted at least a cog. This is Highway 149 on the left as Jackson Road ends. We're going to continue, and that's Highway 149 straight ahead. I check, it's clear, nothing's there. And then we're going to switch to, that was a good pull on that segment. So we're going to switch to,
Let's turn it off.
on 1488.
Legends, we're on 1488, wrapping this ride up.
It's right after we've descended Mount Magnolia. We're on the edges of Lake Windcrest. In this direction, we're headed east. The wind is coming from behind and to the left. So Paul is going to stay on the right. We're going to do some rotating pace lines on this road. But the bulk of the wind from the left and behind, and then of course what you generate in the front, there's always that resistance. And we're keeping the effort steady. Steady but fast. I'm probably riding a 53.17 or 53.16. 53.16 is probably what I'm in. It's a good size gear. Those are the gears you spend most of the day in when you're competing. Revving it up higher than this, but just being in the gear, muscle memory kicks in. So with the wind as it is blowing from the left, the north wind has picked up. Because the evening after this got even colder as the wind kept blowing in. You can see I'm putting more force into the pedal. The road is slightly rising here. It says 1%. That's the thing about 1488. It's not flat. You can feel it. So whether you're spinning a cadence at 100 or 110, or whether you're riding at 60 to 75 or 85 RPM, your form should remain the same. I think Paul's going to roll through here soon. I don't know if I wave him up or he just rolls through. Right there, yeah. You can see from Paul's jacket the wind that we're dealing with. It's pounding from the left and it's swirling around. So Paul's ring cape is a lot thicker than the one I was wearing. And so I think he didn't want to take it off because he'd have to fold it and it would be kind of bulky. I don't know. He's probably just, maybe it felt good because right now it's not very hot. Let's see, the temperature is 21. It says 70, but it feels like upper 60s because that wind is cool. Because 21 C is about 70 Fahrenheit. The wind is changing. There's no one spot where the draft is. So sometimes I get directly behind, sometimes I'll slip a little to the right. I'm just trying to find it because this road is headed mostly east, but it's exposed, especially in this section here. There's no protection. You see how the jacket's swirling around, the wind's whipping around. That's why since I could fold mine into a small ball, I put it away. So Paul's working harder to maintain this effort than I would if I were putting a hole in the wind or leading the group right now, because he's got that jacket flapping around. That's drag. So he's putting in the work here. You see my watts are nothing. I'm looking for the smoothest area, the quietest area. So I'm doing a lot of soft pedaling behind him. That's why it's dropping in the low 20s and 30s or whatever periodically. I only pedal when I absolutely have to. So I'm just kind of floating on the pedals to save my effort. You can see I've dropped into the top of zone 1, sitting in his draft. That's the benefit of riding in the group, of riding in the draft. Even if you got 2 or 3 riders, you can save energy. Look at my heart rate, just keeps dropping. You gotta be stingy. Look at that, 132 now. You just gotta be stingy right there. The wind's changing, so I'm getting closer, and I'm sitting right on his hip. And I'm just kind of being sucked along. Look at my watts, 60 something. That's where you save energy. So those of you who compete, sit in the draft until it's time to really put a big effort out there. Even if you don't compete, sit in the draft, so when it's time for you to take your pull, you're fresh. I think I'm rolling through now. I'm going to give him the camera here. So because of that rest that I got back there, I feel really fresh. Makes a big difference than when you ride solo. It's a different dynamic. So now he's searching for the draft. So if you think about when he was up there, his jacket was swirling around, the wind was whipping around. So when your kit fits you and that wind comes, hits your torso and wraps around, there's nothing for it to hang on to, so it just slides. That's the logic. It will slide around you. So you're not being forced to work as hard. So when he was at the front, he was doing like 31K, I'm doing 33K, let's say, for example. So if you want to just look at just that factor alone, so I can go a little faster with the same kind of effort. So the aerodynamics really matter. They're not everything, but they matter. You don't want to get so low that you're not able to generate power, because at some point there's a marginal utility that you lose. The road goes up here. It says 1%. It feels harder than that. And I stay in the same gear. I just want to work the same gear. I'm working a large gear, probably in a 5317. That's about an 84-inch gear or something like that. So depending on what the wind is doing, I don't know if you noticed me just dropping my head periodically, just tilting my head a bit. It felt like I was going faster. It's right there. Just kind of angle my head, but I still want to be able to see. You got to look for that when you're riding. And I'm leaning into the wind, knowing that it's coming from the left. It's getting harder and harder to pedal here because the wind was picking up. It's later in the morning. We're battling more winds. But after what we dealt with earlier, this might as well have been a piece of cake. So psychologically, I was having fun here. You hear me say at the end that I didn't want to stop. Had a good rhythm going. At this point, I've got a rhythm going. I'm sitting probably in the 53-16. And this is why you don't want to be too crazy and get in too large a gear. Because finding a gear that you can rev up above 90 or handle 70 to 75 is good to have. Because back in the day when we used friction shifting and the down tube shifters, you would search for a gear that would handle that range, so you weren't always shifting. So even with the modern day shifters, where it's more convenient because of ergo power and so forth, you still need to find a gear that you can kind of play with. You don't want to be behind the gear. You want to be able to turn that thing. That's a slight grade here. Ninja grade. The harder it gets to pedal, the smoother I focus on being. We're using the left lane here because they took the shoulder right here and made it a left lane. We stay in the lane, so anyone turning has to get behind us. And this is where you hear me tell Paul, I don't want to stop. So I don't know what you did on Saturday, but this is part of what we did on Saturday. Remember,
I didn't want to stop. Yeah.
Get your K's in and keep the doctors far